I got a job as a forest ranger, and there are a lot of strange things going on. What's another Oscar list? Allison answered, and I immediately told her everything that had happened to me. During this time, how I had come across this list of rules and how I had first heard the creepy scratching noises that were driving me crazy about how last night I was chased all over the forest by a crazy woman who looked like the spawn of hell. Allison took a deep breath and answered, "It's understandable. You know? Oscar, this has happened before. In fact, it happens to every new caretaker that is assigned to this tower." Allison said, "I don't know what to believe anymore. At first, I thought that maybe people were just going crazy from isolation with the outside world. Personally, I've never seen anything like it. But after Harvey... By the way, Oscar, you've been here for 3 days, right?" Stop, Harvey," I interrupted Allison. "Who is this Harvey?" "Look, the guy who worked in front of you, he lived in your tower for over a year and he never left home. Even when the season was over and winter started," Allison continued. "He was a tough guy who had good hands. He was always fixing things. Harvey was a pretty good person and nothing strange. I didn't notice anything strange about him, unless he wasn't very social, and often I wouldn't hear from him for 2 or 3 days. But later he would contact me on the radio station. He would say he was fine, and then disappear again. And one day near the end, he didn't contact me for a week. And I guess he spent all those days and nights out of his tower. Although, to be honest, I have no idea where he was all that time." "What do you mean near the end?" I asked. So he just disappeared. Mark thinks he was tired and made the decision to quit working him. The tower was empty when he checked it, no bags, none of his clothes, and Harvey was strange. All of this, he's been living here for a very long time and adamantly refused to leave the forest. And then suddenly he decides to leave, without saying anything to anyone out of the blue. I can hardly believe it," continued Allison. "Even though a few months before he disappeared. He became obsessed with a crazy woman, claimed to see her often at night, but never went into detail. If I started to ask anything, he just stopped talking. Like I said earlier, he didn't communicate much with me. When I was looking for a job, the ad said there were no openings, but they were accepting applicants on a case-by-case basis. In case someone quits. Did they know the position would be available soon? I don't know." "Why they put that in the ad?" Allison said. "I've been working here for 2 years, but I don't really know anything except my duties and who worked here before Harvey. And on second thought, I asked another guy, his name was Rick," said Allison. "He left a few days after I started working here. One day he asked me if I had ever met a woman in the woods, a woman who smiles. I said no. What else lives here besides us? He looked at me with a very creepy expression on his face, but without answering anything, he walked away. I thought he was some kind of weirdo or he was crazy for living in the woods. To tell you the truth, I didn't feel satisfied with the amount of information I'd gotten. I didn't know if she really didn't know much about all this or if she was hiding something, and so I decided to get to know her better." "Allison, what made you take this job?" "Well, I guess we're going to tell each other all our secrets this morning, isn't she?" A nervous grin. I didn't let her get away with the question, and she answered, "Oscar. The thing is, my sister, went missing in these woods," Allison said in a shaky voice. "It happened right before I took this job here. I took this job. I don't know, to try and find her or to try and help others who could possibly lose me." "I don't know, Allison," cried Allison into the phone. "I'm really sorry about your sister. Really. I apologize for upsetting you and perhaps reminding you of this misfortune. I wasn't going to ask her any more questions, no. I'm still not sure if she's hiding something from me or not. But we are friends now, and I want to keep it that way. I didn't want to become her enemy and fight with her, so I decided to close this painful topic for her." I thanked her for talking to me. I believe it. I kind of want to believe it. I don't know why. But after that conversation, I felt a little more at peace than I had before, and it turns out Harvey just disappeared. And he and Rick both probably saw a woman smiling. Apparently it's the crazy woman who stalked me last night. I don't want to believe all this nonsense, but I get goosebumps when I remember the horrible scream and how I ran, trying to get away from her. Yesterday, I lay on the bed all day into the evening and didn't even sleep. I was just trying to make sense of all the information Allison had shared with me. By the way, maybe the camera will give me some answers. The camera I found yesterday is now charged. I turned it on, and the screen showed 3 photo gallery options. Settings. I chose gallery. There are some pics of some lake from the car house, nothing that would help me by scrolling through them at a fast pace. I happened to notice an image of a tower. This is my tower I am in, and there is a family of 3 standing at the base of it. The father has dark hair. It's quite long, and he looks like he hasn't had a haircut in about 5 years. A big, strong guy. The mother is blonde with a beautiful smile and her hand on her husband's shoulder. Mother is blonde with a beautiful smile, her hand on her husband's shoulder. 3 in the photo with them is a child. It is a boy with short brown hair and a striking resemblance to his father. I keep looking through the photos, but no longer see 7 together, only a man. He was taking selfies inside the tower. He was taking pictures of the view from the window of the outhouse and some trails. Maybe it's Harvey or Rick. If it's Harvey, it makes sense why he would want to leave the woods. After all, he has a wife and a son. But Allison, she never told me anything about either of them having a family. Everything is just getting more confusing and I don't understand anything anymore. Then the photos were even more mysterious. The next photo. This is clearly a bunker, that bunker I found nearby, dug in the ground, that had that sleeping bag in it. And this camera only in the photo, it looks unfinished, as if in construction. In the process, whoever had that camera must have been building it. Allison said that Harvey was a normal person, and she didn't notice anything strange about him. Well, why the hell would he build a bunker in the woods and so close to the tower? I guess all the weirdness is just the face. Well, okay, about that later. The next picture is of a tree, barely visible in the dark. Then, 4 or 5 pictures. Also, this tree at the base of the tree. A shadow. A strange, distorted shadow. Harvey, or someone else, was trying to take a picture of something. And it's that crazy woman. Suddenly I heard crying coming from downstairs. What time is it now? It's 2 a.m. What the hell is going on? It's a woman crying. It didn't sound too close, but I was sitting on the bed and listening to the long, bloody screaming. I remember this rule. Rule 3. If you hear a woman crying between 1 a.m. 4 a.m. and ignoring it, I can't sit still. And just listen to this. Crying sounds very pitiful and believable. I really want to go and help, in case someone really needs help quietly. As I can, I put on my gear. I grabbed my flashlight, my walkie-talkie, and opened the door of my cabin. I cautiously walked down the stairs, lighting the way in front of me so I don't trip. The crying is coming from deep in the forest, so I carefully make my way through the branches of the trees. I don't know how to describe this crying, but it can be. I know how to describe it. But it is like a mother who has lost her child and is crying in despair. My flashlight was off. As the crying was getting louder, I crouched down, carefully squatting from bush to bush, from tree to tree. The air was very foggy and cool, getting colder. The closer I got, when I looked out from behind a tree, I saw her. She was sitting by the tree with her hands over her face and crying. She was next to me. She had dark hair, very dirty and wet, although I couldn't see it too clearly. But she was wearing a dress that seemed clean and intact. Her hands, oh God, they were twisted or broken. Not knowing her pale white skin was literally glowing in the dark. My radio. I quickly put my head down to turn it off, and the crying stopped. I'm still looking at my radio. Damn, she heard me. I can't look up. I'm sick. I force myself to raise my head, though, and slowly look at her. She looks at me. She has hollow, dark, wide eyes. They look lifeless. Her eyebrows are raised. She smiles. Her smile is unnaturally wide across her face. And even wider than it should be possible on her face are swelling tears. They're still dripping down her sharp cheekbones and then down her thin neck. I've had enough. I'm going to run. I can't take my eyes off her. But I'm trying to convince you. In that dam, I need to run. And I stare at her for about half a minute, and she doesn't move. Her eyes still looking at me, an anger smile. Just as I'm about to muster up the courage to turn my back to her, to run, the branch under my feet breaks. I look down and then back at her again, but she's gone. This is my chance. I turn and run without looking back. I dodge trees, Stumble, but don't fall where she could have disappeared to. So fast the tower. Already nearby, I race up the stairs, break into my cabin, slamming the door. I look out the window and there's no one downstairs. Shit. I jump on my bed, turn on my lamp and cover myself with a blanket. I try to calm down and catch my breath so I can hear all the extraneous noises. There seems to be no one, there is complete silence. I peek out from under the blanket, working up the courage to contact Alice on the radio, and immediately notice the muddy footprints on the floor of my cabin. Not from bare feet, and I'm wearing shoes now. The footprints go from the door across the room to my bed. This is when I begin to realize why I didn't see her looking out the window. Because she was already inside the hut with me, I'm shaking violently and I can't move. Assuming she is now, under my bed.